2015 Hyundai Elantra. Issue with this one is the customer will be driving it on the highway or even idling after 15-20 minutes, and the engine will run really, really rough. And then the codes he has in here, sorry about Bon Jovi in the background. I mean, it is a good song, but P0017, crankshaft position, camshaft position, correlation, bank 1 sensor B exhaust, and then exhaust camshaft position, timing over retarded or system performance, and we got an AMS voltage there. So far, I guess the customer replaced this cam sensor here. There's a cam sensor here for the intake and one for the exhaust. Replace the exhaust one, and the VVT solenoid has been replaced as well. Here's the old VVT solenoid. I pulled the new one out that was in the car and I looked at it, and there is oil pressure coming out of the back there. So there's one here for intake, one in the back for exhaust. We pull up some data here, according to service data next. All right, so I'm going to pull up exhaust here. I'm going to graph these. Just set up my graphs real quick. Just making a number up so I can kind of center my graphs. So it wants 112 degrees negative, and it's at 112 negative. We're going to run that. We're going to look at it. Also, I have a scope hooked up. The red, I have channel A for my crank sensor, channel B, my green, for my cam sensor on the exhaust. Even the service data shows you to do it that way. We'll go over that in a minute. So you can see here, it wants, well, it's already acting up. Look at that, it's way off. Earlier when I ran this thing, when it sits for, an hour or two on a cold soak, these graphs will line, well, these lines will be perfect. It wants 112.8, that's the desired, and its actual is that, which it's not right now. But as it warms up, it takes 15 or 20 minutes. But before that, these lines will be perfect. And look at this, it's all over. That's your crank, that's your cam. So what I did earlier is I put cursors in here, and I was watching these, and I was getting 19 milliseconds, from here to here, roughly, right? And if you look at this service information, it shows you the same thing. Well, there should be 15 signals between that, right there. 15 signals, and that's what we had, but it's moving all over the place. It's advancing, retarding the cam. Like you can see it's all over the place. It wants 112.8 and it's moving. When it's cold, I didn't get this on camera, but when this thing is cold, this thing will stay stationary, perfect, and this thing graph will be perfect as well. This blue will be right on that green line. But when it's warmed up, and it's been warmed up, I ran it for like 30 minutes, shut it off for 10 or 15, 20 minutes, but it's still warm and it's still doing it. So like, well, maybe it's got a VVT solenoid issue. Which I don't think it does, because it's got a new one in it. I think we got issues with the cam phaser we need to look at. So, you watch these here. I mean, we could split screen it and run off the same scan tool, but since we got two scan tools here, we'll use them both. Just put our cursors back in here. Just put that for reference. Don't worry about those, just these two. But you can see it's moving all over the place. Sometimes it gets real bad and this thing will just switch way over and you'll see a big movement on here. But now it's pretty consistent moving. 85 to 112 degrees is incorrect. So So I reset everything that calls, but look, it's good there, bad there. And watch it. I just got these cursors to move earlier, what the heck? So look, it's perfect. 112.8. Look, it's not moving much, the cam. 21 milliseconds, we're off. Now it's moving again. See it moving there? Move there. Now it's getting moving again. And then you see the cam moving all over the place. It's not perfect, but when it is, you can't even tell the difference. It's one line. And it is perfect when it's, you know, cold until it warms up for 15-20 minutes. You see here, it's starting to, it's shifting. I'll let it run some more until it acts up again. Now I did clear the cold, so let's see what it does here. Now it's perfect there. Pretty steady there. I'm just putting a cursor in for reference. Yeah, it's perfect, 112.8. It's not really moving too much on the cam. Pretty steady. Pretty steady there. Pretty steady there. Tells you there are about 15 signals between the switching point. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's correct. And it's good there. When it's good, obviously. I'm going to pause it till it starts acting up again. Still good, but when I'm looking at the schematic here, I'm on the exhaust, I'm on pin 31, the signal, and on the crank, I got one lead of positive to pin 41, the other one to my battery ground. Because sine wave, square wave. Right there with my probes. And it runs pretty good when it's not acting up. But if you look here, it's all good right now. So let's just keep watching this. It's not shifting either. Just a little bit. When it acts up, this will boom all over the place, which represents it on this as well. Question is, why is that? Well, that's been running for another 5 minutes and it's still good. No issues at all. You rev it up a few times. I would think it would act up again. Revving it up. So when I rev it, it wants, the green is what it wants, but the blue's not even moving now. So it's trying to, the green is what it wants. It wants to go in degrees there, but it's not even moving it. Let's look at the scope while we do that as well and see what we got going on. All right, there's the scope. Let's do it again. Wow, it's just going to change our amplitude. We're not going to get an accurate reading that way. Just because it's changing our amplitude. So that's not going to help us there. All right, back in the car. Let's rev it again here. See the control on the bottom there changes. It wants this lower number, there's what it wants. But it's not even moving now. Didn't do that earlier. Start it, turn it off and restart it. Looks like the blue is trying to do a little bit. All right, it's been running for another 10 minutes. Still no changes. It's running good. No calls besides the AMS voltage rationality. We'll keep running here and take a look. And there we are right there. You see a couple imperfections. I have a different scale now, just doing auto scale. But it's pretty good still. Moving around a little bit, but not like it was. Well, it's not acting up, but it's starting to a little bit right there. But eventually it does get worse. So, let me go through the service information for this. Tells us to hook up a scope. There are 60 signals, including the missing tooth during the semi-cycle. There are 15 signals between the switching. Okay, we validated all that. Here's your schematic we already hooked up to. We talked about that earlier. Your pinouts on the PCM we talked about. Says make sure the crank and cam are aligned. Now if it was off all the time, I'd say we have a mechanical issue, which we don't. Check the LCV and filter. Got a new one of those in there. Just kind of skipping through this real quick. Apply 12 volts to it. Ground it. Make sure it's actuating. They already put a new solenoid in. Doesn't mean that it's not bad, but check the CVVT, continuously variable valve time assembly. Check that the CVVT assembly is locked. The one of the two holes on the cam journal is for advanced upper and the rest is for retard lower. Apply masking tape to the oil. Apply masking tape to tape to all the oil path holes except one advanced hole. Indicated by the arrow showing the figure.
You're so smart.
He's been wanting to do that all day. And then, so there's A retard, B advanced. Talks about releasing the CVVT pin. Anyways, we need to get into this. We'd have to pull the valve cover to go all this. We'll see if the customer wants us to. Use low air pressure. See what else they got in here. Yeah, so, long story short, it does change once in a while. We need to pull the valve cover. Look at this cam phaser and see if the customer wants us to go ahead and go farther.